Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Good Day podcast. Today we have Maria, and she's going to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Maria. I work in private practice as a psychotherapist in New York City, and I specialize in anxiety and relationship issues, and also, existential identity issues as well. And here I am with Sophia, who we're going to talk about anxiety and how it impacts people in general, especially college and high school students.
Okay. As a psychotherapist, also that graduated from NDC, what is something, or was there a personal experience that made you choose a specific branch of psychotherapy and to dedicate yourself to? Because I know there's a lot of branches, and especially with anxiety being so variant and such and caused by so many things, what made you focus on this?
Honestly, yeah, it was from personal experience. I think just experiencing anxiety from such a young age, and not knowing what it was actually. I think until I put a name to it back in, I guess I think yeah, I wasn't enter college, and I think it was like, oh, actually, this is something that people experience on a more it's like on a more regular than I would know, and. I think that that's kind of like looking at the impact of that also made me realize, okay, like this is something that I also want to focus on, try to help as much people as possible.
And as a student, like you were a student in Miami-Dade College, did you ever feel that sense of anxiety that meant like I have spoke to you about, that the whole project focuses on, that to understand that students are not alone in what they feel, and that it is a normal process to go through this feeling, even though you don't specialize in teenagers. You as a previous student yourself, did you ever feel like certain anxiety moments or stress moments and that you didn't know how to manage, and how did you manage them?
Definitely. I think let me try to look back. Yeah, I think especially because it's like I feel like that there was like a lot of like expectations and like demands that I would put towards myself at that time because I feel like I was in such a moment of like also finding myself and like finding what I would want to do it actually in terms of like career. I felt like I wanted to go into one career and then actually found psychology through my time in Miami-Dade College. And I think having those experiences also kind of like having this battle of like, okay, this is what I am interested in, but also are the resources and the kind of like what's available for me at the moment. I feel like I had to struggle with that a lot. Because I also, also fighting with that kind of like ambitious persona that sometimes like wants to strive for more and more and more all the time. Um, and yeah, I think as a student, I was kind of like battling with like those high expectations that I have for myself. And I still am in some ways, but I feel like throughout the years, I have to, come to terms with the fact that also there's ways to navigate it, right? And also the anxiety is also telling me something about myself, about the world, about others that perhaps I had to look deeper into and, see what it's telling me actually and finding ways to navigate it.
And when going through these different moments of finding yourself and having different expectations for yourself, I know especially here in the United States, there's a lot that is expected from the students. This talking about like SAT stuff, this whole like AP AP way of education, also IB. Like I feel like there's so many opportunities that it could get overwhelming. At least that's how I feel. So for a moment, like in my life before I chose interior design, for example, that's what I want to do. Before I chose that, I was like, okay, like what if what I'm doing is not the class that I need, and then like I didn't take it. Like it's a
Right.
very like stressful situation, because you're doing it for you, and you're choosing what you need to do and what you want to do. I feel like feeling like you're not. doing the right thing is a very common trigger for anxiety and stress. So, you haven't felt these different moments, and like knowing the education system here in the United States and the pressure that the students get, how did you manage that? Like, did you have any like meditation techniques? Did you figure out things that don't work for you? Because for example, like I have tried like breathing exercises and those don't necessarily work for me because they make me stress more. Like what works for you and and do you still use it today?
That's a good question because I feel like that everybody finds their own way in
Hmm.
that sense, right? And how to kind of like how to manage it because it becomes such a personal a way around it, right? Because it's
Hmm.
like what might work for you might not work for me, and vice versa. And it's like it's kind of like trial and error at the end of the day. I feel like in times like this, what has helped me, or like throughout my life, the more that I look into it and also explore more of myself. Um, One thing that has helped me is kind of have like a structure and meaning, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Kind of like a structure in the sense of, for example, like lifestyle. I think that having a specific routine, having a specific practices. And I think that's where I go more into more like on the creativity side of it. Because I also like music and the arts. So I feel like finding ways to be creative and kind of like channel that anxiety through my music, for example, like when I write songs or when I'm singing, um, I feel like that's such a powerful way to sublimate it, right? In many ways. Um, what else? I think also has helped me to as I said, like some structure in regards to, for example, working out, right? Maintaining a specific, my level of fitness. And I think that's also taking care of myself in that way, like what I eat, how much I sleep, what exercises do I enjoy? Because sometimes it's like, yeah, like they can tell you, oh, like do this yoga thing or do these breathing exercises and do all these things. But I feel like it's finding that thing that brings you joy, right? For
Hmm.
me, for example, it's running and going to the gym. Um, and it's kind of like finding activities that you for on an everyday, or maybe if you can set aside like 30 minutes an hour or something every day that you enjoy, that can help a long way. And as well finding meaning through it as well. And
Do
I
you,
wonder also, like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what do you feel like has work and doesn't work for you?
I mean,
um
for me, I think that for example, I like having like something to grab onto or like a stress ball or something like that. Like something that I feel like I can control in the sense of like I don't know, like a fidget toy or something like that. Because my breathing, for example, a lot of people have told me, no, no, just breathe, like hear your breathing. But I feel like my breathing stressed. So I feel more stressed. So I don't know, but for me, like panic attacks are pretty common, if I'm being honest. Like I don't know, but like in a situation that I may have one like in a classroom, but I don't show it. It's just like a feeling
Personal
of
experience.
yeah, so it's like a feeling of like, okay, like my mind is very overwhelmed, and even though I don't show it, it's like it's hard to focus on what I'm doing. And I have, with experience, like learned that those are mini panic attacks, and they're not necessarily triggered by anything. It's just a like general anxiety of like everything just falls into the moment, like nothing. And I feel like that's a very big misconception. Like something has to happen in order for you to feel a certain way. I feel like what you said, like if you don't have a specific routine or if you like your sleep schedule's not good or if you have a lot of stress on you over a passing of time, that eventually will affect you and in the ways that like you don't
Mhm.
know. So like in a class, for example, I wouldn't even if I'm relaxed and I'm with my friends, that's a common environment for me. I may feel a certain way because of the things that are going on in my life, which is normal, especially now with like college applications. It's such a big change coming up. I feel like that's a pretty big misconception that a lot of people are afraid of because they're like, oh, okay, I don't know what I'm feeling, like what's going on. I need to step out a minute. And it took me a while to get there, but definitely for me, it's like touching something or stress balls, but it definitely was like a trial and
Mm,
error thing. I downloaded apps. I downloaded like Calm, like the Calm app, meditation,
mm,
relaxing music and stuff like that, and definitely like grabbing onto something is something that works for me. And also like having someone to talk to, even if they don't feel what you're feeling, you at least can, like for me, talking about what I feel makes me feel better because I know I understand what I
mhm.
feel. So
Right.
my mom, she gave me like a stress ball when I was going on a trip because I don't like flying on airplanes and stuff like that. And she's like, "Grab onto this, and if you're feeling anything, like talk to your dad or whatever." Like because she wasn't coming on that day, so it was a really relieving feeling knowing that like I had someone who understood what I went through and like without even me having to tell them, like if I knew I was like looking down or like
Mhm.
feeling or like looking nervous, she knew what was going on. So I feel like, or if you don't have a figure in your home that can help you do that, maybe a friend or something like that, I feel like it's really important to have someone that can understand what you feel.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that like so from what I'm hearing is like that you like or like something that helps you is that something that involves the senses. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, I can relate to that as well in the sense of like, kind of music is very sensory. For example, like going on walks and like being in nature, I think that you're kind of like experimenting, that air, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And talking to someone, I think also like I forgot to even mention, right? Like even like doing my own therapy, like,
Mm-hmm.
attending, religiously, if that makes sense, to like doing my own like with my therapist and whatnot, like talking out loud, like where I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. Because that's how the unconscious also works, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
through language as well. So the more you speak about it, the more that you start to unravel a lot of stuff that are hidden, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start to realize, oh, like, maybe, this is the root of it. So now what can I do with this knowledge, with this insight that would help me to uncover more of what's in there.
Yeah, and that's mainly the focus that I wanted to have with episodes and things like this because whenever you're feeling down or something like that, you listening to a conversation of people that feel the same thing as you, like maybe will make you explore new things that you haven't explored in the sense of maybe I haven't thought about a fidget toy and like now I mentioned it and you didn't know things like that. And like also like my friends watching this, like them relating to me and being like, oh, I know I can talk to her now, and like someone who is in need of a psychotherapist or something, they know they can contact you.
Mhm.
It's something that I feel like I would have liked to have. That's why I'm doing it, and that's mainly like the whole point of this, that it does come from personal experience and it does feel relieving knowing, like I do feel relief knowing that like I have or something to listen to like this, or like someone something like a comfort show to watch or whatever it is. It does make me feel better. And like now that you spoke about your own like appointments and psychotherapies and stuff like that, do you take when you feel like you have a client or something like that, that you tell them something, have you ever like told them something that you feel maybe would help you? Or do you take your own advice as well? Or how do you manage different situations when it comes to clients?
Kind
Like
of like what if if I practice what I preach.
exactly.
Uh, Interesting. Yeah, I think well, I think my own experience helps me kind of like understand more.
Hmm.
Also like when they're telling me kind of like what they're going through and whatnot. I think is sometimes it's even like in the talking with them that I also get to find out things about myself as well. And it's kind of like this kind of like, a back and forth of like, we're helping each other in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think that there's this such a, I guess, magical level of it that is like, okay, also seeing how much, courage and like effort and energy and thought they put into also like getting better and,
Hmm.
in a way, working on themselves, I think is it kind of transpires, right? And I
Yeah.
think that also helps me to in a way finding different ways and trying different approaches, right? That can help me to also in like in my own, personal life. And I think it because in a way it's like we're mirrors, in,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's a way that I also like approach even like my own work. And I think that's yeah, like, I think it's such a rewarding experience.
When you're dealing like with a situation that has to do with an confusion of identity or like a big life change or something that I know you also focus on. Now that, for example, seniors are going into college and it's a very stressful time because of like the whole separation thing, or I'm changing my whole life and I'm going alone, that's a very big deal. How do you recommend, like, knowing from a professional perspective, how do you recommend thinking about uh life changes like this? Because it's not real that they're not going to feel stressful or anxious in a certain way, but maybe like looking at it from a different approach in the sense of like this is better for you or you're doing what you want to do. What do you recommend handling things like this, especially going alone into like the real world?
Right. Well, I guess it depends on a case by case basis, right? Because it all depends on like what the person is experiencing, kind of like the resources, what they're also their psychic resources, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like how much of the bandwidth and the resilience and the strengths and their weaknesses around specific things. Um so I feel like when it comes to life transitions, especially, from going through high school to college, right? It's something such a kind of monumental, right? Like we're going to in the real world, and also it gets even a little bit harder when you go actually into, the workforce, for example, because you have to now depend on yourself, if that in
Hmm.
most of the cases, right? Um, and then I think is in a way. I start by asking specific questions around like the relationship with change. I think
Hmm.
that guides me a lot into, okay, what is this person, you know, looking at change like, right? Like
Hmm.
what comes up for them when they think about change and transition, and what is hard about it for them. And so getting into in a way like the root of for them of like how it feels and what factors are contributing to this difficulty and this struggle. I think that opens the way for me to, okay, then to go with it, right? And see what it can teach us or tell us, right? That we might not know from the get-go because we're dealing with so much and it's so overwhelming. And it's like, okay, like how do I even start, or how do I even go through all these things? And I think is finding kind of like their own strength around it to then, okay, see what's in there to work on.
Did you feel like a similar way when, for I know like, starting in Miami-Dade, you went, and in you were in Miami for some time. Did you feel a certain way changing your life and moving to New York, which is a completely different thing, a very big step. It's a very big city. It's called the city of dreams and things like that. Did you the when did you feel like there was a change that needed to be done for you, or did you feel that way, or how did you decide that this is a step that I need to take and this is what I want to do?
Mm. Yeah, I think the things like with New York, it was such a dream for me, right? Since I was little, I think watching TV shows like Gossip Girl, for example,
Hmm.
like, oh, like I want like that looks so fun. Um, but and that was like it became kind of like the whole goal within my college years of like
Hmm.
my north, right? Like I wanna live in New York and like I wanna do all these things there. Um, so for me, it's kind of like I was already prepared
Okay.
mentally. Like I
Hmm.
did want to make that change. Because one of the things also like that drove me there is also like getting out of my comfort zone because I know that
Hmm.
would some form of growth there. Um, because I feel like that's kind of have been perhaps like the kind of like the common denominator, if that makes sense, among like kind of when I see my growth in different ways. I feel like the more that I get outside of my comfort zone and the more I take risk, the more I get to know about myself and grow in so many different ways. So for me, it's like, but also realizing that, oh, like it's also a big change, and I'm also leaving things behind, but that doesn't mean I cannot go and take this leap of faith for
Mhm.
something that I actually want, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up in our fears and it's so overwhelming.
Like the what ifs and stuff. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's like, well, you can get stuck in that, but you can also find what's on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's up to you as well.
And when you moved, like when you finally did what you wanted to do, did you feel like that sense of like I can now could take control of what I do, what I want to do, like my own life? Because with school and college and stuff like that, I do feel that like in a certain way you're like there because you're attending school, or because you have to do certain things, certain deadlines and stuff like that. Now that you moved to the place that you have always dreamed of, and that you're going there, like you're there right now, now that you're
Mhm.
in the place that you dreamed to be in, how do you manage your daily life? Did you have like did anything happen that you didn't expect, and how did you manage that? Because I know that when you idealize something, when something like unexpected doesn't happen, or it's something that comes up that you didn't expect, I know it's like, oh, okay, wait, like this was not on the plan. Like, what do I do? Like, did that
Mhm.
happen for you? How did you manage that? Do you like if it happens to a client of yours, how would you recommend them to treat it in general? Like, how would you recommend like an unexpected situation and like an idealized dream that you just had?
Right. No, that's an important point as well, because yeah, you're right that there's so much of a an idealization, right, that we
Hmm.
can have towards specific things, and we tend to romanticize it because I mean that kind of like allows us to okay to look forward to it.
Hmm.
Um, but then you get to the reality of it, and it's like, oh, there's a reality that I didn't know before, and now I'm experiencing. So what do I do with it? And I think something that has helped me with it is also like knowing what my resources and my support systems um are, right? Like in the sense of like sometimes you can idealize it, but then also you get to the realization of like, okay, maybe it's such an expensive city, which it is. Maybe the classes and the workload and the internships that I have to do, and kind of like how to also sustain myself, and going through like the different struggles can get to you and can be very overwhelming. But it's also like, okay, what knowing the reality of it all, right? Like what's in my hands in this
Hmm.
at this specific moment, right? In the here and now. Because sometimes, yeah, like there can be the romanticized version of it, and there's a reality of it. But then with this reality, what can I do with what I have, right? And I think of course it depends on like a case by case basis. Um, and I also hear it a lot from especially like college students, grad school students that are going through a rough patch in the sense of like, oh, I thought that this is gonna be like this, and sometimes you encounter different um you know obstacles along the way, but then it's like, okay, also keeping that north, right? Like if the
Hmm.
north for you was like, and you knowing your why, I think that's also something that I, often try to remind myself and, the people that I work with as well. And then sometimes, like, okay, why are you doing this? Right? Like what's motivating you to do this, to not give up and to not, um, like renounce the dream that you have, right? Or if something changes, right? Like what is it that, like what do you want to do around it that would allow you to take a different route towards it.
Hmm.
But sometimes, and then therefore in the way along the way you can also realize different things that you were not okay with or that you are dissatisfied with. But then it's okay to also change your mind and find a different path as well. So
Yeah.
it's what goes along the way around it. And I wonder if like that's something that, like in terms of like your own journey as a, as a high school student, but also within the program, have and to see like is there something that you feel like that is common among your peers and yourself?
I feel like a lot of my friends have told me, and I've talked to them about it as well, that it's scary, like knowing, looking at ourselves right now, that like a year from now it's not going to be like this. I feel like us knowing that a big change is coming, like makes us feel a certain way before it. So like for example, yeah, everyone's like enjoy your senior year, or like every day is like the last day or something. And when you look at it like that, it's like yeah, it's true, but you don't realize that until you're in that position. So
Mm-hmm.
last year when I was a junior, I looked at the seniors. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a year from now. Like that's not now, right? And now it is, and it's a realization that's it's difficult to have, especially. I mean, it depends on like your relationships with others, but like for example, I have a little brother, and that's 8 years old younger than me. So for me, I feel like okay, yeah, like in a year from now, I don't know if I'm gonna be living here at my house, like how am I gonna manage that? Because I'm very attached to my family. Like, is it gonna be is it gonna be a problem for me to not be as close to them? Am I gonna be okay with that? And since I haven't experienced it, I don't know. And I feel like that's a big um part of the fear that everybody feels, because in the end everyone says the same, that like I'm just scared of like everything that I've known up till now will not be like that anymore, and things start depending on me, like you said. So it's definitely like more of like the realization of now we're in the position that we thought we would like a long time ago, that like oh yeah, that's like so far away.
Right.
And yeah, it's just like wait, we're in it now. And I just need like a pause in time, like I need to like process everything that's going on, but also like with college applications and stuff like that, it's just I feel like everything's moving so fast that like the time is taking me, and I'm not like handling my time, if you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I
Yeah.
mean. And especially like me, that I have a boyfriend and you focus on relationships as well, like what is gonna happen, like and that's a topic that it's difficult to talk about, but it has to be talked about. So how do you manage like, or how do you recommend to approach situations that like they're hard to talk about, like things like this, like yeah, we're friends or we're in a relationship, like I'm gonna go over there and you're gonna go to another place. How do you recommend like approaching the situation?
Like you mean in the sense of like how to have difficult conversations?
Yeah, in general, or like not even like in like the teenage years, just like in general, like when you have a relationship when you're older, or when you get married, like what is a key factor that you think can definitely determine the outcome of like a hard conversation?
Mm. Well, I think it depends on like what what a difficult conversation means for you. Like
Hmm.
what makes it a hard conversation? Like you're talking in the sense of like, for example, when you're in a relationship or when you're with your friends, for example, or like, when you're making these life transitions that you feel like it's something that it's hard to perhaps like plan around,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, what if like what's gonna happen tomorrow? We don't know, you know,
Hmm.
we're going along with it, but in that sense, like what's the vision for as of now of why you like what is the place that this person has in your life and how you want to see it in the future, um even when that's also like tentative.
Yeah.
So I wonder how like what's along those lines of like having uncomfortable conversations, like what do you think is the biggest fear around it? If you notice it within yourself or, among your close friends and families.
I mean, I feel like because it's definitely not just only me. Like now, everybody in high school like is in a relationship where they have like a very close friendship with someone, and like definitely not knowing what's gonna happen. I feel like a lot of the fear goes into the distance affecting things, because
Mm,
they necessarily like it really does depend on the relationship. Like if you're if you're someone that doesn't mind that, or that you trust your partner and things like that, like I feel like it wouldn't be. a big issue, but for some people it is because or either they're very attached or they have done everything together. It's just a big change. I really do feel like it depends on the type of relationship. It's a friendship, it's a boyfriend girlfriend thing, whatever type of relationship it is. But I feel like it's more of I don't know what's going to happen between us or between our friendship or between our relationship because I know where I'm going or I know where you are going, but like since I don't have the same routine with you anymore or like how routine changes like clash with each other or schedules and things like that, I feel like it's just a lot of changes going on that I feel that maybe the most difficult part is maybe we're not gonna approach them the same way and that's gonna be a problem. I feel like a lot of people like go into the mindset of it's gonna be a problem and we should maybe just break it off here or like not be friends anymore because I don't want to get hurt after. But I have noticed that a lot. But I don't
That's
know.
like
I don't.
we kind of like trying to break it before it's broken.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's really sad because you're going into it and like I'm going into my own life, um, knowing that like I may get hurt because a lot of people are not here with me, so I'm just gonna like cut it off
Yeah.
from now so I'm not hurt anymore and that's not how it should be. At least in my opinion I feel like having someone to talk to that's not here or someone or a friend that's like waiting for you somewhere else. I feel like that can also bring a sense of comfort knowing that they're also going through the same thing as you, a different change, a different thing. So I feel like it could maybe even be more of a of a thing to talk about and relate to and have a deeper connection with. But definitely, I think does depend on the relationship that you have with the person that you're concerned about, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah. And also considering that, relationships in and of itself evolves in so many ways. Like you
Yeah.
can with a person on the same place, at the same time and you can grow apart and you can grow together, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
in that, because there's a form of distance or we're close to each other like 24/7, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not gonna be some form of change because we're
Yeah.
always growing in so many ways. And I think sometimes it's hard to because I think change is hard, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why some people might look at it of like, okay, like let me just then like get rid of this pain before it actually happens because we are so afraid of it then that's gonna happen that we try to kind of like prevent it as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. It's like a form of like avoidance as well.
Yeah, like a defense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's yeah, like that's where it goes back to then to the point of like, okay, like how do you want to go about this, your evolution not only at the individual level, but also in relationships with other people. Right.
To wrap it up, I feel like me having an experience with anxiety has really made me understand it more. What do you recommend for people that like are experiencing it for the first time and they don't know what to do, and especially if they're in a situation that like college and stuff like that, that they're alone and they're experiencing this for the first time and it's a fear that is very uncomfortable, because you don't know what's going on. How do you how would you make them understand what they're feeling? How would you make them understand the importance of them understanding how they're feeling? Do you think that that's an important factor, or do you think that that's something that comes along with time? Because I as a person do feel better uh having experience with my feelings because I know how to deal with them and I know what they are, and like, oh, this is anxiety or this is fear and I know how to differentiate them. But I know some people uh maybe haven't experienced that, or if they do they go crazy and have panic attacks, which is a way of approaching an emotion. But do you think that there are other ways in which you can get familiar with it that are in a different, like not experiencing it? Do you understand my question?
Say more. That's the
Like,
question.
I feel like I am very familiar with the feeling of anxiety.
Okay.
Would you recommend someone that is starting to feel these feelings for the first time? How do you recommend that they move forward with this feeling so that they are not scared of it anymore and that they understand what they're feeling from the first time that they feel it? Because I after a lot of anxiety episodes and stuff like that is when I understood and learned how to manage it, but they're definitely uncomfortable situations. So like how do you recommend to approach it like the first time that you feel a feeling?
Well, let me ask you first, like, how does it feel for you? Like, what
For
are some
me,
of the signs that you see in yourself that you know, okay, this is anxiety?
I mean, for me, I know what triggers it. So I feel like whenever I feel the
Mhm.
feeling in a place that triggers it, I know it's anxiety. But it for me it's like rapid heart rate or sweating or like oh like my mind just goes blank. Like I think but I can't think at the same time. It's a very confusing and overwhelming feeling. Uh, but that's for me. But I know a lot of people they just shut down or they don't speak and they just need a second. Like there's different ways of approaching it. So that's for me. But I learned what I'm scared of and how it triggers it. But how like for someone that is triggered by it for the first time, what do you think they should do as like a first timer and how do they move on forward?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's such a difficult, you know, experience, if that makes sense, because it's like if you don't know, then how do you, like, how would you even go about it, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's kind of like the first, I guess the step around it is acknowledging what it is like, and like noticing how is it that you feel,
Mm-hmm.
especially physically, right? Because at the end of the day, like, anxiety manifests in different ways, and for different people it's different. um but like, so in terms of, like, when you think about anxiety and how it manifests, it just goes in different ways because we all experience it
Mm-hmm.
different and sometimes similar, right? It can be in the form of like racing thoughts, for example, like this physical tension, or like, like as you said, right, it's hard to breathe and you have this tightness in your chest and sometimes you're sweating, and this constant, or even it's at the level of like, your mind, right? Like it's going on a constant loop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Nations. So I think, and with every emotion, I think the first step is kind of like more recognizing what it is that, what is happening. Like, can you name it, right? Like, even if it's at the level of symptom, right?
Yeah.
Is it action? Is it something? And kind of like, okay, asking yourself that question and then go from there and see what it is telling you. And then talk about it with
Yeah.
someone, especially a therapist or someone, and that can help in that realm. That can help a lot. Hmm.
Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation, and I will share your contact information so that they can contact you and talk to you if they need anything else. And thank you so much.
Thanks to you for having me. Hope you have a very one. Bye.